Doctor Strange is shaping up to possibly be the best and biggest MCU film. Next, this side of Spider-Man, No Way Home. Next up, just to talk. So let's talk about it. So you already know what it is. Doctor Strange is in full production. Actually, post-production, I do believe, because it's coming out, I believe, this year. So, and I believe they're still filming for certain things, Easter eggs, things of that nature, which, if you ask me, they're bringing in the whole Fox roster. They're doing whatever they can to bring in and ingest in the multiverse of madness. If you're going to go mad, you bring everybody from Blade, Wesley Snipes' Blade. You bring in even the Spider-Mans from the Sony universe. You do all you can to beef up this story to tell the biggest story you can ever tell, utilizing all the different types of superheroes from Marvel all across the years that built us up to the sophistication that is the MCU, and actually bring them in and canonize them in a story that we never thought we could have ever seen before. And for it to happen in Doctor Strange is like, it's strange and not pun intended, bro, because of all the obscure characters. And now he's almost spiraling out into this personality that is getting in the vein of uniqueness and infectious, as was Tony Stark's, played by Robert Downey Jr. And I really do think Benedict Cumberbatch actually has the chops to carry the universe in that kind of way, to almost be the leader of the Avengers, because he definitely has that charismatic personality for it. I like to see what Falcon can be as Captain America, if he can really assume the role of Captain America as a leader. He has a lot of personality, just the same, and charisma. Will they be able to do it without trying to make him what Steve Rogers was? This is Falcon. This is his character. Let's see what he can be as a Captain America. So to see what Benedict Cumberbatch has brought to the table as Doctor Strange is not only just like cool as hell, it's very impressive, because he's actually owning the role as almost like being a comparable match as a leader of the next level of Avengers, now that we have no more Steve Rogers nor Tony Stark. That being said, this film, with all the possibilities from bringing in, rumors of bringing in Professor X and maybe Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and I think I've even heard that they said Wesley Snipes may actually make an appearance, but why not? Like, you can really, and everyone's wondering if Ben Affleck will pop up as Matt Murdock, as he played Daredevil before in the film. Will they bring in Jennifer Garner as Elektra? I mean, like, you could really go so crazy as even bringing in, like, you could bring in Leonardo DiCaprio, because he was supposed to be in a Spider-Man movie, and you can actually bring him in as that now. And I would have loved to have seen him work out for that role, just to play what could have been as a homage to James Cameron's never had an opportunity to do Spider-Man. That would have been so fucking cool. I mean, like, you could go crazy with this in so many different types of ways. It is no reason. So it's no surprise why they called it the multiverse of madness. And this is supposed to be also scary as well, now to think about it, because people said that's why I guess that's part of the reason why they got Sam Raimi, even though I never saw his horror films as exactly scary personally. But needless to say, from what I understood, this was supposed to be the scariest MCU film, which doesn't really say much, but that's the direction that they wanted to go with. It's the genre that they wanted to emulate. It'd be interesting to see if they actually achieve that. I'm not going to hold my breath because I do not think nor suspect that they actually will make a horror version of a horror film in the MCU. They'll make a horror version of it for MCU, for the MCU. But needless to say, because I was cool with the original director, I really liked what he brought to the table. But this right here, I'm very much interested in seeing where they go with this and the direction, and if this in fact will employ scary and horror elements. That said, they're bringing in Wanda, and Wanda can actually do a lot of different things to this story, and this is what makes it even more interesting. And I hope they do lean into what the rumors say, that she is the actual villain, and I like and hope she is holistically. If there is another villain, I don't want the other villain to be pulling the strings of Wanda. Make Wanda that type of complex and complicated for the MCU. Let her actually have that type of darkness in her without having it to be pulled from some other higher villain messing with her. We don't need that. Make these characters even more developed. You know, I mean, I think that would make this even scarier, quote unquote, and more interesting. And I think that is where you can actually get your horror elements. The fact that she could have had that already in her to be this bad guy, to go this far, to try to bring back her kids, if that's what the real plot is, as the rumors are saying. I do look forward to Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, but and one of the other things is I really do want to see how they're going to handle Wanda, post-WandaVision, in a way that will employ horrific iconography on the screen. Because you can actually do that. But will they? And will they lean into it is the real question. And that's what I want to see. I want to see Marvel not being afraid to go there. Because it's about time. Now, with that said, I don't want just the talk to be this episode just to talk to just be about this. I do want to also talk a little bit about the X-Men, because why not? Everybody thinks that the X-Men are going to be pulled into the MCU, as do I, but there's a part of me that really believes that they might keep it in its own universe, separate, and then you could bring them back together in a Secret Wars, but that's a cross multiverse type of thing. Because again, as you've seen what I've said in one of my Just the Talks, and we already talked about it, I kind of don't want to see the MCU bring in the X-Men like that. I kind of don't want it in the MCU to begin with, because I feel like it's going to leave a lot of plot holes, because the mutants that are getting birthed now as opposed to being there from before. And if they were always there from before and they're just being exposed, it makes it a little easier. But then you would have to explain, or unless you're saying that all the mutants that have physical appearances that kind of cannot conceal who they are, well then, these characters, unless you're going to say those are the type of characters that start to pop up after the fact, how do you conceal them in the past? How do you express that they've always been here, even when the Avengers were running around? That's the problem, and that's the conundrum, and that's the thing that's going to make it hard to sell to everyone else. And that's the thing that's going to take away from them if you try to say that they're just popped up right now via Wanda, whether it's in the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness or wherever, if that's where you're going to say that mutants just start appearing. They have to have always existed and have this angst between humanity and them, if you ask me, before you start to deal with the X-Men. And if you're going to say this is where they all pop up from, then how are you going to sell the angst when we've already seen the Hulk? You're going to have to really do some real creative writing to bring the audience to terms with accepting that this anti-mutant type of way of living, when we've already had the Avengers running around and we look to them as heroes. Yeah, I'll let you explain if you could have used them looking like the villains in Civil War, but after Endgame, saving the universe, if you will, or at least 50% of it, they're seen as heroes. So you're going to have to try again, go out of your way to sell this type of attitude while having the Avengers fully operational. Can it be done? I'm sure, but I don't know how you're going to do that and still be able to keep the strong lore that is the X-Men without having to just start them all over in their own universe, which I hope that they do, and they should do. And I think it would be to the betterment of the story, as opposed to into these characters, as opposed to going out of your way to sell the X-Men and MCU at the expense of the characters and their lore. That's where I'm at with it. But where will we see the X-Men, the new rebooted X-Men? Or are they going to try to find a way to pull from all the X-Men from other universes to create an X-Men in our timeline? And someone could argue that could be the case. But again, then we lose so much lore. And that would be the more convincing way to do it in our universe, to take all the best characters from all the other universes and say they were stranded in the MCU and now they're their own X-Men team. But then you end up losing stories from mutants, like the struggle of mutants. Again, like I said, I mean, there's ways you could do it, but then it'll be at the sacrifice of a lot of lore and characters. And are they willing to do that? And are they willing to do something that no one ever thought? Continue the actual characters in a separate storyline in their own respective universe, but use the multiverse of madness to kind of redress and fix and reboot them that way. That would be interesting. And that's a way that no one's ever really discussed, at least not as of yet, at least not none that I know of. But you let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think I'm onto something with this? Or do you have any kind of theories of how they're going to bring and boot the X-Men, if they're going to do it in the multiverse of madness, or how they would do it in a mutants film? Or what they're going to do to set up in this film, to set up the mutants film, if I'm not mistaken, that's the working title right now. They're not jumping into the X-Men, they're going to do a film called Mutants, which I think is a dope idea. But if you're going to do it in the MCU, there's mad ways you could go with doing that. And again, as always, I am not excited. But with that being said, you let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. See you next time. And as always, till I have a better outro. Chill.